The Ink and Paint Club podcast is intended for mature audiences. These guys can't go about like 3 seconds without saying a swear, so, listener discretion is advised.
Doesn't this seem a little odd to anyone?
Don't look a gift cake in the mouth.
Happy birthday, Billy and Mandy. It's probably a trap, since we don't share the same birthday.
Maybe it's celebrating the show's birthday, yo.
You're listening to the Ink and Paint Club podcast, a proud member of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network.
Hey everybody! What's going on? It's the Ink and Paint Club podcast. My name is JD, and Kyle, unfortunately, is not going to be with us for a while, so I could probably stop making excuses for why he's not here until he gets back, I guess. But hey, Matt is here.
We're here, and we miss Kyle, and we hope for his safe return soon.
We hope his captors release him soon.
Yeah.
His captors being the capitalist system. And Richie is also here.
Yeah, I'm right here, sitting here, talking to all of you.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
It's been a little bit, I think, maybe a couple months. The last show we had you on was the Dexter show, right?
Yes.
Now Richie's back to talk about more Cartoon Network stuff because apparently Billy and Mandy is 20 years old this year. So we're gonna talk about that.
Yeah.
I didn't even know Billy and Mandy turned like 20 until yesterday. Like there was no fanfare for it at all. I don't understand why.
Well, you know what? You know what it is? It's a little bit confusing because I think a lot of people forget that Grimm Adventures is technically a spin-off of Grimm and Evil. So this 20th anniversary of Billy and Mandy is technically 20th anniversary of Grimm and Evil. So it's 20th anniversary of this show and Evil Con Carne. And, there's some, this is a show about Billy and Mandy, so we're not really going to touch on that show, but we'll talk about the characters because they do show up in Billy and Mandy here and there.
Right.
But, so as far as we'll talk about Grimm and Evil for a second, because Grimm and Evil was it was a show that was the combined, they had 2 or 3 segments or whatever, but half of it was Grimm Adventures of Billy and Mandy, half of it was Evil Con Carne. And this show originally it won what was it called? The Cartoon Network had a contest back in the day that this was a contender on.
It was like the Big Pick thing.
Big pick,
Yeah,
okay.
the Big Pick. So and it did that for a couple of years because I know, Billy and Mandy won the first one or the second one because I know the other one that won was Kids Next Door.
Mm-hmm.
But then they ended up doing a show for Robot Jones at some point as well, even though it wasn't the winner in either of those contests. But yeah, so Grimm and Evil was voted on by the viewers of Cartoon Network, and I think even then it wasn't referred to as Grimm and Evil. It was just Billy and Mandy, but they decided to make it like a variety show. But eventually, it was like 3 seasons that they did of Grimm and Evil of like all the different segments, and then they decided to just spin them off into their own full shows. And first couple seasons of each individual show were all the segments that were on Grimm and Evil, and then they just did unique content from then on. So yeah, it's technically 20th anniversary of Grimm and Evil. The actual Grimm Adventures show, as it aired, I think in 2003.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, like 2003, 2004, or something like that. But yeah, so this is technically the anniversary of that.
Yay!
Definitely talk about what was that, Richie?
It's nothing. It's a joke.
Oh, okay. I was going to say, because we'll talk about the creator a little bit. Maxwell Adams. He's
a weird dude, but a cool weird dude.
Yeah, he's a cool weird dude.
And I feel especially bad that Kyle isn't here because he and Maxwell are like good friends.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. We couldn't have
not
Kyle
to name
on.
drop or anything.
Yeah, well, Kyle's name dropped Max on here a number of times. I think people know. Because we definitely talked about that when we did the review on what was the name of that Scooby-Doo movie that he did? Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo. Because he directed that, and then we talked about Kyle's exploits with Max a little bit on that show. what I totally forgot was that he actually directed another film after that, or another Scooby-Doo film after that called The Sword and the Scoob, and that one came out earlier this year. I think he might be done with the Scooby-Doo stuff by now, but as far as his pre-Billy and Mandy work, he worked on like Twisted Tales of Felix the Cat, Cow and Chicken, I Am Weasel. He also worked on Robot Jones too. I was surprised to find that. Apparently, he was a layout artist on that.
I can believe.
And then post Billy and Mandy work is like Chowder, Fish Hooks, Bunnicula, and
he like headed up Bunnicula, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And then also on Teen Titans Go, which is a surprise to me now as I'm finding out.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he's gotten around here and there.
He's getting work.
Apparently, he was also working on Has Been Hotel.
Yeah, I know he's been helping out with that.
That's interesting to me. I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, I don't remember like what his role is, but I know like he's like one of the more notable names, like working on the background stuff. Or maybe he has a voice in there. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
What it's saying on at least Wikipedia is that he does voices on Hell of a Boss. I always want to say Helluva Boss. And apparently he's writing, producing, and directing on Has Been.
Oh, neat.
But that's just what Wikipedia says. Anyone can change that.
No, I do remember seeing his name in the credits and being kind of surprised about that.
Right.
Of course, Richard Horvitz is who's in Billy and Mandy is a main character on Hell of a Boss, which I know we reviewed Has Been Hotel a while back when it first came out, and I wasn't like really hot on it. I actually really enjoy Hell of a Boss. I think it's really funny.
I've heard a lot of people say they enjoy it. Maybe we'll talk about it when they wrap up whatever like season they're doing right now.
Yeah, there's only like 6 episodes out right now, so maybe in the future.
Yeah.
To watch all of Bibsy Pop stuff at some point because I haven't seen any of those like yet.
There's some cool stuff in there. I really enjoy the work of hers that I've seen. I still need to get around to like looking at a bunch of the stuff that she's done, but
yeah. It looks interesting, definitely. So yeah, I'll have to look at that at some point.
Right. But we are not here to talk about Bibsy Pop or Hell of a Boss or Has Been Hotel. We're here to talk about the Grimm Adventures of Billy and Mandy because it is Maxwell Adams' biggest work, and it's the one celebrating the anniversary right now. So that's the reason why we're not really touching on Evil Incarnate too much. But hey, who knows? Maybe in the future we can do an individual episode on that.
Yeah. So I feel kind of bad about this, but like I feel like I was never really the biggest Billy and Mandy fan growing up. Like I would watch it periodically, and I would find it funny. But I feel like somewhere about halfway during the show's run is when I really started to drop off from it and like watching other things. I'm not really sure why exactly. Because I did find it funny, and I think the writing's really clever a lot of the time. But just for whatever reason, it was never up on my priority list of cartoons to watch.
Okay, well that's fair. I mean, if you had other cartoons on the Cartoon Network that you were more interested in.
The early to mid 2000s of Cartoon Network and Disney and Nickelodeon, like there was a lot of good shit to watch. So I mean, like you had to prioritize your time.
Sure. Yeah, no, that's fair. Richie, I know you enjoy this show a great deal, right?
Yeah. I really like Billy and Mandy actually.
Yeah, that was the reason on the show anyway.
Yeah. What was it? It was like last year. I was like binge watching it for like a few weeks. I would. It's surprising how much I was like belly laughing through most of those like episodes because there's a lot of good stuff in there. There's a lot of good writing, a lot of good jokes. It's just a lot of good character moments in there too. Even though everyone basically like hates each other.
Yeah,
it's a very cynical show.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, no, this was basically like, even though the content is not exactly the same, this was basically a Cartoon Network's contender to Invader Zim, like on Nickelodeon.
Richard Horvitz is in both shows.
He is in both shows. But yeah, and also Grimm Adventures lasted a lot longer.
Way longer.
Which is unfortunate that, I do love Grimm Adventures, but like if I could have had Invader Zim go on as long as Billy and Mandy did, and instead I would, just because that show is definitely more ingrained in my DNA. But no, I really do love Billy and Mandy, just because it is a similar styled show. that also has Richard Horvitz. It does play up like the gross out humor like a lot more, and I'm not like too big on that just because it's just thrown in there for the sake of having it in there. But aside from that, everything else about it, just the demons and the occult and cryptids and just all that type of thing like is prevalent throughout the show, and that's what I really enjoyed about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, what else? What else can we talk about? Let's talk about the characters now. I want to talk about the characters.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we already talked about, Billy, he's kind of the focus of like what most things happen in the show as a result of his actions, basically, because he's just like hyperactive and just an idiot and just
Billy is a screaming moron.
Yeah, pretty much.
Dumbest, and I love it.
And then you've got his counterpart in Mandy, who is just this very just no nonsense, like a dreary girl.
Realistic.
The one time in the whole show that she cracks a smile, it causes people's eyes to bleed.
Yeah, you
natural order.
This is the thing. This is what I wanted to bring up. You'd be surprised if you go back and watch those earlier episodes, how much she actually like smiles. Like it's a lot more common in those episodes.
Yeah, that was before they kind of hit like their stride and kind of like how the characters acted and stuff. Because you'll get some of those early episodes where Billy's not as idiotic as he would turn out to be like much later.
Well, I feel like that's how a lot of shows with kind of like dimwit main characters are. You pretty much like track Simpsons and Family Guy the same way. It's like they're like a little dumb, but they're not like completely like inept up front. But then like as the show goes, like their intelligence just gets ramped down significantly.
Yeah. And then we also need to talk about Grimm, the Grim Reaper.
Okay, like I was always very surprised that Cartoon Network allowed that to be a thing. Like it just seemed like such a morbid concept, and I was impressed that they like went with it. But like this is the literal Grim Reaper who takes souls to the underworld.
The early 2000s were a hell of a time, man. Like
they were just throwing everything at the wall.
You could get away with almost anything back when you were making something in the 2000s.
Yeah.
And they got away with a lot on this show too.
Yeah,
like rewatching this show, because I rewatched all of it on HBO Max, except for the things that weren't on HBO Max, which I'll get into. But yeah, just the amount of, because I haven't like gone back and rewatched Billy and Mandy since like watching it in reruns. Being younger. But there's so many more references that I pick up on now that I completely understand. Like just referencing other like sort of horror type, like referencing stuff like Evil Dead or like sci-fi stuff like like Dune or
there's an entire character that is both Ash from the Evil Dead and both Snake Plissken.
Yeah. That was the inspiration.
Oh god, it was like one of the best characters.
Yeah, that was the inspiration behind the character. I think that's what he said.
Yeah, no, I mean, Haas is the best character on the show.
He is. I like him. He's good.
And he's voiced by Diedrich Bader, basically practicing his Batman voice before he'd go on to voice him in Brave and the Bold.
Right.
Brave and the Bold. That's another one I gotta watch.
That's a great show. I love that show.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
It's surprisingly good, but yeah.
You've got I'm not going to touch on Mandy's parents because you don't see them that much. But Billy's parents are the ones that you see way more often. Gladys and Harold.
Harold is I'm like, I don't know. I have a problem with like idiot characters who are just like left unchecked in a lot of shows, but for some reason like Harold is like okay for me. Because he has a lot of good like one-liners.
Yeah, but he is also like bounce back and forth between being a full-on idiot and like being like like a dad.
Yeah.
And then of course Gladys is just trying to deal with all the weird occult shit happening in the house now, because her first couple of appearances are like her actually like finding out about Grimm and like being written off the show for a few episodes and then coming back and like basically taking control back of her house. Like
like fights Grimm in one of the episodes, like almost dies.
Yeah. Some of the other kids on the show, you've got Spurg, Irwin, let's see, Mandy. No, I was just naming them off the top of my head. Well, because we were on the topic of Grimm, and I didn't know this until last night. I didn't know that Greg Eagles, who voices Grimm, I had no idea he voiced Spurg too.
I can believe
seriously?
that.
Yeah,
I can believe that.
Oh
yeah.
wow,
it was a big surprise to me. Like I felt
did not
like
know that.
because a lot of boy characters like in cartoons like that are voiced by women, so I assumed it was probably like, I don't know, just somebody else on the show. I would have never expected it was Greg Eagles. So like I went back and I listened. I was like, okay, yeah, if you put like some modulation on that, if you like pitch it up a bit, like I could see that being him. But it was a surprise.
It's always nice to have voice actors with range. That's a
Yeah.
very key thing in these things.
Right,
Who's
and then
there-
we
Who's there
didn't
one? Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say we brought up the other two voice actors, but we didn't bring up that Grey Delisle voices Mandy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she does a bunch of voices on this show as well, along with I think Rachel McFarlane and Grey Delisle basically just voice like all the chicks on this show.
Yeah.
I mean, they did some damn good work. Let me just say.
Oh yeah. And then what were we going to say, JD?
Oh, I was just at who is their one friend, the one that's like has the nasally voice, the little redhead kid.
Oh, Puddin'.
Puddin', that's it.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember his name.
Yeah, no, Puddin'. Then you got like Mindy, who's the girl that's the cheerleader that's a rival with Mandy.
Typical popular
She's
girl.
such a bitch.
Yeah.
She's a bit. She's also really funny.
Anytime harm comes to Mindy is some good shit.
Funniest thing in the world. It's the funniest shit.
As far as like sort of characters outside of the school district, we already brought up Haas Delgado, who was definitely the best character of the show.
He's a monster hunter.
Yeah, you got Eris, the goddess of chaos and discord.
Probably went through like the most design changes throughout the show.
Yeah, she changes designs like what 3 times.
Yeah,
something like that. Yeah, and like her very first appearance. And it's funny that they bring this up in a future episode. It's like she's hanging out in a mall and she has like a Valley Girl accent, and then like she loses a tooth at the end of the episode, and she keeps that lost tooth to the rest of the show. And then like they reference how her voice is like her inflection changed like in a future episode. It's like, oh, I can't believe I had a crush on you in that Valley Girl phase of yours. Like, really funny.
You also got fucking Nurgle and his kid that he doesn't he like marry Billy's aunt, and that's how he
does. Yeah, I just watched that one yesterday.
He marries his Aunt Sis, and then they move back to the center of the earth, and Nurgle Jr. is born.
Nurgle's like this, just like this darkness, evil, gelatinous man. I don't know what he is exactly.
He was the first villain in Billy and Mandy, right?
If you want to, I don't really consider Nurgle a villain because he doesn't really ever do anything.
He's just a nuisance.
He's a nuisance, yeah.
I guess, but still.
Yeah.
You can also talk about his kid.
Yeah, Nurgle Jr., who's voiced by Debbie Derryberry.
He just sounds like a very like more nerdier Jimmy Neutron.
Yeah,
I'd say less nerdier Jimmy Neutron, honestly.
Okay, I'll say he's a less enthusiastic Jimmy Neutron.
There you go.
That episode is dark, by the way. His introduction episode.
It's where he's like body snatching people, right?
He's like killing people, like snatching their bodies.
And he's freezing them.
It's whatever.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like maybe they need to leave it open to interpretation a little more than definitively saying, "Oh yeah, no, he killed all these people," so you could like imitate them. Like,
I think we need to take a second to talk about one of the other best characters in the show.
Was it Jeff the Spider?
Well, I was going to say Grandpa Dracula.
Oh, Dracula. Well, yeah.
Dracula. Yeah.
Well, we didn't even talk about Irwin yet. I was going to talk about the relation there.
Sure.
Yeah, I think it's fitting that we don't get to Irwin until like the very end of the character. Like,
right. Well, it's funny because Irwin actually ended up by the end of the show having like a lot of development too, especially when you get to like Underfist, which is basically like the series finale, which we won't probably touch on that too much, but we do have a whole episode dedicated to Underfist that we did a couple years ago for October, so definitely go listen to that. But Dracula's great. He's just fucking, he's
like he's George Jefferson. He's a dude from the 70s.
Yeah.
He
He
is. Yeah.
just fucking hates everyone. Only wants to. He only looks out for himself. He likes to dance, and he burns up in the sun
Watch Dracula
constantly.
dance.
Yeah. And who can forget his iconic line of
Dracula don't bite.
Scraping
Dracula lit. He's great
scrape the
and
lid.
lit.
Ow, ow, ow.
Oh,
Dracula.
God. He's good. He's good.
I feel a little bad because there's in Dracula's introduction episode, they also have the Bride of Frankenstein and the Wolfman, and like they barely show up in the show after that. Like Dracula shows up like 3 or 4 more times. Like
There's
Yeah.
so much more potential for those other two.
just Dracula like was the standout, and they knew that. So
And they just kind of ran with it.
yeah,
But you want to talk about Jeff the Spider?
That's why
because, it's
absolutely no love from his father.
his father Billy, who he just hates. Billy hates him so much.
It's so tragic. Literally every time Jeff shows up, he's just like trying to be so nice to Billy, and Billy fucking hates spiders so much that he just wants Jeff dead.
Every
And
single time.
it's like, I'll be whatever you want me to be. What do you want? I want you to be dead.
I want you to get squished.
It's like funny, but at the same time, it's so depressing.
Yeah. No, and Jeff's voiced by Maxwell Adams.
Yeah,
So
yes.
that's even better. Like,
Yeah.
Why won't you love me, Dad?
I brought him up a little bit, but one of the crossover characters from Evil Incarnate who ended up being like a mainstay on this show is General Scar.
It's like their neighbor.
Yeah,
His
and
next neighbor who just
he's
wants to keep to himself.
preoccupied with gardening instead of world domination, even though he does lapse into doing that again every now and then when he's
Yeah.
But they do have like they do have a whole episode where they actually do bring back like Hector and Bosco and Major Dr. Ghastly.
Yeah, I remember that one.
Dr.
Yeah.
Ghastly.
And that's like a full-on crossover episodes, and that's fun. Like, I do definitely want to re-go through Evil Incarnate too, because it does have a lot of similarity to it, but it is just different enough, like in terms of content, because Billy Mandy's more like a, I guess maybe I would hesitate to say slice of life because it's not. I mean, like,
I wouldn't go that far, but
I would say that Evil Incarnate at least had more of a direct plot, like as far as like, the whole point of that show is like, okay, well, here's the next like big plan for Evil Incarnate to like take over the world. Whereas Billy and Mandy is more just like, hey, what bullshit are these kids getting up to?
What wacky shenanigans are we gonna get to today?
Yeah, it was funny because I watched a few episodes with some friends of mine over Discord, and one of them had never seen Billy and Mandy before, and she was just like, does the show have no plot? And I was like,
Depends on what episode you're watching.
yeah, like it just depends. Some episodes have more going on for them than others. Sometimes
it's just things happening.
Sometimes all you need an episode to be is Billy in a big green muscle suit shooting yogurt out of his armpits.
Exactly. I love that episode so much. It's a great
and he squeaks everywhere he goes.
of like, there's a number of quotes from this show that I still say to this day, but from that episode specifically, I will never ever forget. Fucking, I shoot my yogurt. And he just fucking shoots it all over, like, all over fucking Mandy and Grimm. Like, I think me and my friends said that for, like, so long after that. Like, I shoot my yogurt!
I will say that Billy Mandy has, like, so many memorable and quotable bits throughout this entire run. The fucking Sasquatch bit, which I don't even remember anything about what the episode context was for that.
Please pass the egg salad. Raggle. Somebody help me.
Sasquatch, who we later reveal that because they go back to that scene like 3 times, and it's just they find out it's just Billy's dad in a Sasquatch suit. And kidnaps Billy for no reason.
That's a great joke.
Actually, the joke that episode is from might be one of my favorite episodes. It's that episode is called "Here There Be Dwarves," and basically it starts out with a plot of Billy wanting to go on a picnic, and that's what leads to everyone remembering, oh, not like last time, right? The last time we went on a picnic, and like it was Mandy and then Grimm and then Billy's mom remembering the same exact scene, and then Billy's dad remembering it from a different perspective where he's the one in the Sasquatch suit going and snatching up Billy. Like, it's such a great like payoff, like for a joke that goes on for like a minute and a half, like but yeah, because that whole episode there's a cameo from Yogi and Boo Boo.
Oh yeah.
Michael Dorenforce is the king of the dwarves, and then Arlie Army shows up at the end of that episode. Like,
of course he does.
Yeah, that's where like they have the whole climactic like Lord of the Rings scene, and like they have they switch to footage of a koala eating a eucalyptus leaf, and it's just Arlie Army just like,
oh my god, I remember that.
and Arlie Army just like, oh, this is much too gruesome. Okay, I think it's over. It's like, oh, whoops, no, I misread the signal. I misread this. I had a friend named Joe who misread the signal in a time of war, and now he eats everything through an iron tube. Like,
I think the one bit from Billy and Mandy, and I do not know why this one hits me so hard, and it's again an episode like I don't remember the context of it, is the fucking bit where Billy goes into his mind and talks to his inner frat boy.
Oh yeah,
right.
That's
I'm your inner frat boy, Billy.
That's an episode where we found out that
I think he's afraid of clowns or something.
Yeah, that's the episode where he finds out he's afraid of clowns.
Yeah, and I just love the fucking exchange he has, but he's like, you should be afraid of clowns, Billy. He's like, I shouldn't? No, Billy, you should be angry at them. What, my way of life isn't good enough for them?
Yeah.
I think about that anytime someone gets mad on the internet.
How dare they be different?
How dare they?
That's just people in general now.
I know, and I fucking love it.
Yeah, that one's
Kills
great.
me.
That's the best bit in that whole episode where he's like, and they'll destroy us all to make it happen.
Destroy us all! He just does that for like a minute and a half.
A minute straight.
Yeah.
Just screaming that in different locations. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, that one's another like highly quotable one that everyone always brings up. It's just the fucking destroy us all. He's got like fucking a ton of oranges on his head and in his nose, like, because apparently clowns hate citrus. I think
so. There's one character we forgot to talk about that I still have no idea. I have no idea how this character became so popular, but fucking Fredburger.
You know what's even weird? You know what's even weirder in hindsight, because I went through the entire show. He only shows up like 3 or 4 times in total. He shows up in the episode that he's introduced in is called Keeper of the Reaper, and that's the one where he got like anything that anyone quotes from is from that episode. He shows up there. He shows up in a later episode where he won like a day out with Grimm or something, because he
frozen yogurt.
Like multiple letters.
But the reason why it's a writing campaign to see like, oh, you can spend the day with the Grim Reaper, and like they think, oh, there's all these entries. And it's like, nope, they're all entries just straight from Fredburger, and they all say I like frozen yogurt on them.
I fucking hate that character.
Yeah, because aside from that, he shows up there. He shows up in Big Boogie Adventure, and then
he's like in the court scene, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, no, that's Keeper of the Reaper.
Okay.
He does show up in technically in a court scene in Big Boogie Adventure, but he also shows up in Underfist. But the thing that was so wild to me was that I remember after that the first episode with him came out, and Cartoon Network's entire identity, the entire brand revolved around was it the Yes, like the Yes era?
It was Cartoon Network. Period. Yes. Period.
Yeah.
It's like the red background and like characters just kind of messing around.
Yeah, and that's like I've never understood like why of all characters, especially this character who only shows up like once or twice before they started doing this, is like why Fredburger became the mascot for Cartoon Network for a hot minute.
Well,
it's so weird.
Well, here it wasn't just Fred; it was also Cheese.
It was also Cheese from Foster's.
Yeah,
like these two just like
Those
clearly
fucking
mentally
characters.
disabled children characters like just became the mascots.
Yeah, but I would say that there's more to Cheese than there is to Fred at the very least. Because like from what I remember with Cheese, like at least there was jokes and like how poorly timed like his actions were. With Fred Fredburger, he was a very one note like sort of joke character. Like it just yeah, I didn't get it. I didn't even get it back then. I never liked him as a kid either. Like
No,
But he was voiced by C.H. Greenblatt.
yeah, but
so
he
hard.
also voices some other characters too. Although you know it's funny, you see it. Carl shows up in this show a lot as like a background character. There's
Yeah.
actually one of the school kids is just him. Like it's directly him, and he's called Carl. Like
I feel like Carl gets inserted to a lot of things. Like I
he's
constantly
in
remember
every single show that he's ever been in or worked on. He was in SpongeBob. He was in Billy and Mandy. He's basically in Jellystone, even though he doesn't voice himself. That's Miguel Gorilla.
he's literally the god character in Chowder.
Yeah, he's in that as well. And like, yeah, he always gets inserted into the shows he works on.
He's just so delightful, apparently.
I guess so. Oh God. Yeah, sorry, we got derailed with Fred Fredburger.
Yeah, a little bit.
I
we
think
forgot to
society
mention
got
it,
derailed
so-
with him.
I guess so. Yeah.
That was
I
a story of like random humor.
Yeah, that basically. But even
Well,
then, like at least when you put up against a character like Gurr from Invader Zim, at least Gurr was varied in his randomness. Whereas, like I said, Fred was like a very one note type of lol random character where he just only talked about the same things.
Yeah.
We can merchandise this.
I guess. Did you ever see any merchandise of him?
I don't know.
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. No.
But yeah. So aside from him, yeah, I think we covered all the main characters that show up, like, you know, often enough to be considered, I guess. There's some characters that show up, you know, here and there multiple times, but they're not like major characters or anything like that.
Yeah, right.
Jeremy Snow here, owner and editor-in-chief of The Geekly Grind. I'm interrupting your awesome, regularly scheduled programming to ensure that you know about our Geekly Grind podcast network, of which this show is a treasured member of. If you haven't had a chance to check out our site, you can do so at www.thegeeklygrind.com, and while you're there, check out the other members of our steadily growing podcast family, including the anime-centric Blake and Spencer Get Jumped, discovering new heroes and comic book keepers with Chris and Lance, exploring the vast universe of geekdom with Geeksploration, or of course appreciating animation's finer details with the Ink and Paint Club. Escape your weekly grind at The Geekly Grind.
But yeah, just as far as like, you know, other sort of quotable, you know, episodes or just like, well, yeah, let's just talk about that. Like, are there any other episodes that you guys just sort of remember off the top of your head that you remember being like your favorites, or, you know, just at least just ingrained in your memory for some reason or another?
Yeah, someone can go first because I need time.
Honestly, that's another thing why I kind of feel bad. Is like I don't remember a lot of episodes specifically. I just remember bits, like parts and scenes that really stuck out to me, rather than episodes as a whole.
That's fair, and like I said, that just has to do with kind of the overall vibe of the show. Is that it all very much can run together,
Right.
while still it can be very enjoyable. It is hard to sort of distinguish certain beats and jokes from one another as far as like, you know, what episode they came from and everything.
Right.
And I don't know why that is. Yeah, it is. I guess it has to do with the style of the show. I guess when your jokes revolve around like singular moments inside of shows instead of kind of the whole episode revolving around one particular aspect, which is not to say that Billy Mandy doesn't do that, but it's like, you know, I'm trying to find a good comparison, like something like King of the Hill or something where, you know, you can remember a ton of like jokes and quotes from that episode, but it's a lot easier to remember like what the episode was about when you remember like stuff from that show.
Mm-hmm.
At least for me. I don't know. Maybe my experience is not universal. I'm sure there's people out there that can remember, you know, the exact episode that some of these jokes in Billy Mandy came from.
Oh, I'm sure.
Know,
Yeah.
I would have had trouble remembering that if I hadn't written down like a whole list of notes here. So, but before I kind of go into any of those, if you wanted to bring up any specific ones, Richie.
Well, the one well, right now that's repeating in my head is what's it called? Chocolate Sailor.
Oh
The
yeah,
the one where Billy turns into chocolate and just can't stop eating himself.
yeah. That's because he keeps on ordering like chocolate to sell, and he just keeps on eating all the shipments, and the the chocolate sailors have no idea that he's not actually selling them, and so by the time he shows up on their doorstep, he's just like a head, and like seagulls are pecking at him, like.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, the whole bit of that episode's like, oh, there is an antidote, but it's here. This is an assortment of 4 different chocolates, and it's like I can't remember all of them, but it's like mutated marshmallow, creepy caramel, something or other, and antidote.
He
And
just
then
eats all of it.
he just eats all of them. Yeah. Uh, um,
What else? What else is there? There's that Call of Cthulhu. I remember that one.
right,
Like,
yeah. So that's the episode where Billy and Irwin. Oh, we didn't talk about Irwin.
did we just talked about Irwin?
No. We didn't really like go into detail about him. We brought him up because we said we were going to save him for last, right?
Sure.
Yeah, let's talk about Irwin. Let's talk about Irwin right now.
Yeah, let's just talk about Irwin because
Yeah.
he's definitely another character that, like, I don't know. I think a lot of people remember fondly from this show, like, in just how much of a weenie he is.
He's the world's biggest weenie, but like he has so much confidence in himself.
Yeah,
You gotta give him that. At least he can just do something and not feel ashamed of it like until after he does it.
yeah, and then he's very ashamed. But all he wants to do is, have his love for Mandy reciprocated, and of course that will never happen. But
Because Mandy loves no man.
yeah,
He just love anyone.
nope.
Mandy cares not for humanity.
But over the course of the show, it's kind of revealed what Irwin's lineage is, where
Irwin has like a surprising amount of like lore.
yeah, you find out the first thing that you find out is that his mom is a mummy, like an Egyptian mummy.
But I'm biased because I really like mummies.
Right. And then much later, you find out that Irwin's grandmama was married to Dracula. So you find out that Dracula is his grandpa, but also that makes Irwin part mummy, part vampire.
Which is again brought up in Underfist.
Yeah, so Underfist is the big one where that all pays off, like, which is like a good, because Underfist is a good, it's a series finale, but like it mostly focuses on side characters because that's focused around Haas, Jeff, Fred, Irwin, and Scar. And then the main characters show up here and there in that episode. But Big Boogie Adventure I would probably consider like the actual like show finale, and then that's more of like a epilogue, I guess would be a way to put it.
I can see that because I don't know if we want to talk about Big Boogie Adventure now or another time, but
Well, I mean, yeah, if you want to bring it up.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we can get it out. Big Boogie Adventure, I thought, was like the definitive Billy and Mandy movie because it tells you what the characters are. It gets them into a situation that they all play off each other like very well. At the same time, it has like these kind of movie moments here and there. There's one where they try and make it seem like Billy dies in the middle of it, and Mandy feels kind of bad towards it. And then it was like, no, he's alive. We were just fucking with you.
Yeah.
And then
yeah,
I mean, yes.
They do try to have like some, you mentioned like earlier, like some character moments and beats in that one because it's like an actual full size movie, like it's like an hour and 10 minutes or something like that. Because I just rewatched it last night, but yeah, it's especially like a good sort of closure for the show because it has like an Animal House ending where it kind of spotlights the characters and said, "Oh, this character went on to do this." Like it shows was it Billy became the president of the United States, Mandy became the new captain of the pirate ship, and that type of thing.
All these characters have like their moments to shine. It's really nice. Everyone doesn't. No, they don't really skimp out on anything except for like the other ones where it's like they're not really there. But it's like whatever. Yeah, there's this also. if I can talk about the Horace Hand part for a little bit, like
Yeah, sure.
Mandy's one specifically, where she's like really fat and married to Irwin, and somehow
Oh
that
yeah,
is the one part that is the one thing that can just break her. That is
yeah.
the one. That's her one weakness or whatever it is.
Because the fact that potentially in the future she might end up with Irwin is enough to just make her sick. Like,
And she gets beat up by those like by those like bears from Irwin's other thing.
oh yeah, yeah, because Irwin's big fear is having to do stand up in front of bears. Uh,
So funny. It's so funny. I remember just belly laughing like really big at that part.
Yeah,
Uh,
Big Boogie Adventure is great just because, yeah, like you said, it is just a good sort of if you wanted to show Billy and Mandy to somebody that had never seen the show before, the movie would be a good thing to show them because it pretty much boils everything down to like,
it's like
you know,
base element.
yeah, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
yeah.
I wanted to say, but that would be for another episode, so you can just say what you want to say.
About what?
Oh, I don't know. You wanted to bring up something.
Well, no, I was just gonna say that I've forgotten how many specials and like crossovers and stuff this show had because aside from having we already brought up Big Boogie Adventure and Underfist, it did have like a TV movie in Wrath of the Spider Queen, which was basically like a double length episode. And I mean that one's probably one of my favorites just because it kind of goes into the lore of like how Grimm became, the Grim Reaper, and Velma Green's like a fun character. There's a lot of good stuff with Jeff and Billy in there. But aside from those, like they did one of their episodes for
Invaded.
yeah, that's what it was. Cartoon Network Invaded, where that was like a big. Maybe we should do an episode on just the whole Invaded event sometime. That'd be cool.
Yeah, we should, because that whole concept was just wild.
Yeah, but basically that was just like a whole thing where Billy Mandy and some other shows on the network at the time just all did episodes about aliens, but they all shared same characteristics and motives and stuff. And there was some crossover characters between the shows that participated. And yeah, that was
well, because if I remember right, Billy and Mandy was the finale of that whole arc.
It was like the 1 hour like special.
Was it? Were they the one to cap that off?
I'm pretty sure they capped it.
Yeah, it was. It was Foster's, Ed and Eddie, gym partner, Camp Lazo, and then Billy Mandy. Yeah.
Which is weird because I thought it was weird because the way the Billy Mandy ends, it's very like, okay, yes, there are very much aliens. They are from the moon, and they want cheese.
Yeah,
there's a lot of cheese products.
But when you stick to guidelines like that, I guess it's easy to for each individual, because I can only imagine the logistical nightmare if they had any more details they had to adhere to between 5 different shows and their staff and everything. Like the fact that they were able to do that at all, like, is amazing. Like you would never see anyone try to attempt to do that type of shit nowadays, especially with all the cartoons like broke across like streaming how they are. Like you don't see many crossovers like to that degree like nowadays.
Yeah,
executives fucking suck now, so who cares? I heard from Maxwell Adams on his Tumblr. I went through his Tumblr like one day. It was like no one wanted to do it or something. It was like something they were just kind of like, can you guys do this thing for us for this whole event? And it was like it kind of cut into like their episode orders. It was like, well, why do we have to do this? Do we have to do this?
Well, because I think the other thing too was that it was originally supposed to be like a brand deal with Kraft Macaroni and Cheese, but I guess they pulled out like at some point, and so all the shows had to like basically just change their shit around to not like reference anything like specific. As far as what I know, anyway.
Yeah, there's some good like tidbits if you go through Maxwell's Tumblr about that show. Like if you go through, you can learn like some additional stuff about the show and like anything else.
I'll have to check that out. That sounds cool. Well, as far as the crossovers and everything go, too, the other big thing I wanted to bring up was their connection to Kids Next Door. Because in Big Boogie, number 3 shows up a few times in Big Boogie Adventure, but then also there's an entire episode of Kids Next Door that's a Billy and Mandy crossover. So it doesn't show up underneath Billy and Mandy's like episodes, but it's an episode of Kids Next Door that it's like a crossover with Billy and Mandy.
And it's so weird these two shows put together, and yeah, it's like a 1 hour special, crossing them over, and it's very strange because their art styles are drastically different, and it's not like
It's not like NBC Power Hour where they switch over art styles.
exactly, yeah. No, it's
and I mean Disney did a lot of that too. They did some crossovers of a bunch of their shows like in like the mid 2000s as well, but they retained like the show styles from when they crossed over, and it's like
right.
Part of that's fun just to see that, the characters are interacting within the original styles. But the other part is like, well, it'd be fun to see like what they look like. Like you brought up, yeah, Jimmy Timmy Power Hour. Like it was fun to see those characters like flip flopped like into the other show's style.
Some better than others, let me just say.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's a topic for another day potentially. Yeah. And then aside from those specials, they also have your typical. Billy and Mandy has the typical, Christmas episode, and then like a Halloween episode. Well before they did, Under Fist, which is another Halloween related thing, which is the reason why we covered it in October, like a couple years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the Christmas episode was the one where they a Santa turns into a vampire, and they have to figure out who the head vampire is so they can stop. And Gilbert Gottfried voices Santa in that one.
Swallow your soul.
Yeah, and Malcolm McDowell voices like a vampire in that too. It's really funny. And then the Halloween special, which is definitely one of my, because it's if your cartoon has a Halloween episode, it's bound to be one of my favorites. Like that was the one where they have Jack, who's the prankster who gets his head chopped off and has to wear a pumpkin, and it's like he's voiced by Wayne Knight.
Yeah, he is.
He's great. And as far as characters that I wish would have popped up more, I wish he would have popped up at least like one other time, because
he seems like he would have been like a regular or something. I don't know why they didn't bring him back.
Because I feel like his role basically got filled by Boogie, the Boogeyman.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right.
Who's, voiced by Fred Willard. And he
versus Soul.
Yeah, I mean I like him too, but I don't know. I like Jack as a better sort of rival for Grimm, but at least for Boogie, like he had the whole movie to sort of shine as a villain in that. So
yeah, right.
Let's see.
What
was that?
Are we forgetting anything?
No, I mean I have some other episodes and quotes like listed here. I mean, I'll just go down the list like really quick. Just kind of.
You might as well do it because I can't remember anything. If you say it, I'll probably remember it.
Right. Well, actually, we should even bring up the first episode, because we didn't talk about how Grimm comes to be trapped in a relationship with Billy and Mandy.
He loses a game of limbo.
Yeah. Because he tries to claim
forever.
Yeah, because he tries to claim the soul of Mr. Snuggles, who is Billy's pet hamster. And actually, even before that, I've totally forgot to bring up. Have you guys seen the original short film that the show is based on?
It was, what's it called? I know what you're talking about. It was Maxwell Adams' student film.
Yeah, it was a Billy and Mandy and Trepanation of the Skull.
Yeah.
I don't think I've seen this before.
Oh, it's like
you haven't seen it?
It's only like 2 minutes long, I think, but Billy and Mandy are nothing like they are in the show. Like they're very, it's styled after like old like 50s sort of PSA type things.
Yeah.
And basically, the big thing of that was they're talking about, or is it tree panning, which is basically you drill a hole in the top of your skull to vent the blood in your brain or something, so that it makes you feel better or something like that. I don't know. It's a real thing. And so that's what makes doing like your student film on it like even more like
right, yeah,
ridiculous. But yeah, no, there only been talks about it existing, but so that was back in 1995. But then in 2016, it was finally actually shown to like the public.
Jeez.
There's a version of it you can watch on YouTube on Maxwell Adams' channel, but the quality isn't great. But honestly, I think given the type of thing it's trying to emulate, I think it works in its favor.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's like all kind of grainy and a little kind of messy.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, the roots of Billy and Mandy go back to '95, and then when the show finally debuted in 2001. So there was definitely some time there to sort of build up what the show would be. Because yeah, if you go and watch that short film, yeah, they are nothing like they are in that show, and the Grimm is not even a factor in that. So
Yeah.
but definitely some interesting history to check out in there.
When I was reading through the Wikipedia for this show, I was kind of surprised to learn that this was yet another Cartoon Network staple that was originally passed over by Nickelodeon.
Yeah, I was just reading that right now. Like,
Of course it
man,
was.
I don't know how long it would have lasted on Nickelodeon. Like I said, there was already Nick already had like Invader Zim, and it kind of as far as the type of content that they do, I don't know. It kind of had the same thing going
it's
for
like
it.
I think had Bill and Mandy and Adventure Time, and I don't know if there's other ones out there, but like I feel like they would have been vastly different shows and probably would not lasted nearly as long on Nickelodeon, especially if they would have come out like post SpongeBob. And we all know about how Nickelodeon values shows compared to their big seller. So
Yeah, I mean the only show to really last is like Loud House. And I mean Avatar kind of to a degree, even though they had to push that one off to Nicktoons.
And I feel like Avatar is really only becoming like, okay, Nickelodeon's like, okay, we need to like make this into a proper franchise.
Say Nintendo.
Probably.
So it was Loud House, Avatar, Fairly Odd Parents. You already saw how that went.
And Fairly Odd Parents only wrapped up like a couple of years. I mean, you could tell me, Richie, you're the big Fairly Odd Parents fan here.
Yeah, it was like 2017 or 2018. That was the last episode, and
it drove itself into the ground.
Yeah. Goddamn shame. It's a goddamn shame.
Let's just say that there's a reason why we covered Invader Zim's anniversary this year and not Fairly Odd Parents.
Yeah, because
I asked you about it and you said, oh, maybe another time. Maybe it was like 30th anniversary or something.
Maybe. Well, we'll see.
I totally understand. I absolutely understand.
They'll come back around in 5 years, and then we'll definitely keep you in mind for that one, Richie.
Yeah, given how it ended up, but
you can stop watching after Channel Chasers, honestly, but that's just me.
Yeah. No, that's fine. That's really fine. I stuck around more than most, but it's whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, getting back to some of the other episodes that I have written down here for Billy and Mandy. Bless you.
Excuse me.
Bless you.
There's the episode where Grimm teaches Billy how to possess things just by like diving headfirst into them, and so he possesses Mandy and just does a bunch of like embarrassing shit like in her body. Like, let's see. There's the episodes we introduce like Haas and Eris and everything. There's so actually I mentioned earlier about what was it that dwarf elf episode being like my favorite, but that's not true. My favorite episode is the same favorite episode of everyone else that's ever watched this show, Little Rock of Horrors.
Oh yes, I wanted to talk about Voltaire's like involvement since like the beginning.
Yeah,
so we did some good music for that show.
Oh yeah, well I think the song they used in Little Rock of Horrors I think might have existed ahead of time, and they built the episode around it. I think.
Yeah, I think he did. Yeah, Voltaire did a video on that on his channel. I don't know if I can. I don't know if you want me. I don't know if I can give it to you, and you can just link it in the description.
Right.
I can do that if you want.
Well, because I know, yeah, Voltaire was part of that episode, but then he also ended up doing the intro song to Big Boogie Adventure.
Yeah.
Right, and I think those are just the two instances where he was actually involved in the show, right?
Yeah. It was like two songs, but they're really good songs. I like those.
Especially Brains and Little Rock of Horrors. Like that episode's great. I love that episode. And basically the plot of that episode is that there's a rock that comes down from space shaped like a brain, and like it harbors an alien that convinces Billy to go around and lead everyone from Endsville to him so that he could like eat their brain. But it's just punctuated by like this amazing song by Voltaire. So if you've never seen that episode, go look it up on YouTube or something. At least look up like the song or something, because the song's great and it's like amazing.
And for all of you to watch this shit and watch it right now. It'll be the best like 5-7 minutes of your life.
Yeah, that's great. I'm not going to talk about one specific episode, but there's a number of episodes that are Harry Potter spoofs about Nigel Planter.
Nigel Planter, like Lord Moldyboy.
Oh, you're not supposed to say his name. Bad things happen.
Yeah.
But my favorite part about those episodes is that when the squid hat shows up because he's voiced by Weird Al.
Put on your squid
He
hat.
is.
Put on your squid hat, baby.
Oh yeah. I forgot all about that. It makes sense now thinking about it.
Yeah.
That was also CN's like first LGBT rap, as far as I remember.
Oh yeah, fucking yeah, because Lord Toadblatt and fucking Squid Hat get married. I know. I was just thinking about that too when I saw that episode. I was like, huh, people bring up fucking Ruby and Sapphire getting married a lot on Steven Universe as being the first LGBT rep. I'm just like, huh, they're really not bringing this one up, are they? All jokes aside, there's
Snake Club.
What was that?
I said Secret Snake Club. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah, no, God, that episode is just fucking centered around like long ass jokes.
That I love the Secret Snake Club episode, but it is infuriating to watch
because everything takes so long to happen. It's great.
It's mostly just centered around like Grimm is just helping these fucking nerds with their website.
There's a good part of it that like the later half of that episode where that's a part of it, but the other part is just like the leader of the club, like trying to get Mandy initiated, but like there's the whole fucking first part of that where it's like Mandy's expresses interest, like very little interest in the club, and like they're like, we don't let girls join. Whoa, wait, come back. Okay. And it keeps on going back and forth like that, like for so long. And then you got the bit with like Grimm like trying to get to their website, and like that takes another like 5 minutes.
Just stumbles upon some like questionable content.
Yeah. And then there's the whole scene where they're just like sitting in the den and just like explaining the agenda of the fucking show or the club. Only to find out that what wasn't a snake's name? Snishiga?
Shnizga or something.
Yeah, and they summon Snishiga out of the computer, and they find out it's actually just like a really tiny snake, like a garter snake or something.
Yeah.
Like
little tiny dude.
The funniest thing.
There is an episode called Tween Wolf where Irwin becomes a werewolf, and I only have it listed down because of all the quotes in the show. I think about this one where when Irwin's transforming, he goes, "Oh no, it's puberty!" like constantly. Like that would be my favorite Irwin quote for sure.
It do be like that though.
Yeah, puberty do be like that. That's true. There's an episode where Grimm is adopted by a bunch of like little minuscule nuns called Sister Grimm.
I just watched that one. That one's really cute. I like that
where
one.
they turn into like a big fighting, like not robot, but yeah, they like a bunch of nuns are stacked on top of each other and they're just beating the shit out of Grimm for a little bit.
Nun Voltron, I forgot about that one.
There's a Chicken Ball Z, which is like a whole Dragon Ball Z spoof.
Oh yeah,
that one might be my favorite actually. One of my top favorites.
It's like a half Dragon Ball spoof and half Karate Kid spoof. But like,
Right.
Halls of Time, which was where Billy, Mandy, Grimm, and Irwin go to visit Father Time, and they mess around with a bunch of the hourglasses there, and they end up mixing around everyone's age. And like they go to steal a bunch of the hourglasses and they have to put them back, and they put them back upside down, and like everyone's aging backwards to like zygotes.
Get unborn at the end of it.
Yeah, it's like
that episode is really kind of fucked up.
Yeah,
because you see everybody like go back to an embryo state until they just disappear from existence, and like, and I think that kind of speaks to like another just like weird part about this show is that there are just almost every episode where characters will either be left in a compromising position or just straight up dead, only to come back in the next episode with nothing. With no mention of it.
Yeah,
I kind of like when shows do that. Aqua Teen does the same thing.
People just die for no reason, and they're just back next week.
There's an episode called Sickly Sweet, which is where they Billy and Grimm put a mask on Mandy, where if she's like rude, like she turns more and more into a beast.
Yeah, that one. I don't know why I didn't remember that one. That one definitely stuck out to me. as a kid. I don't know why.
I think it was just because the concept of like, oh, Mandy has to like be nice for a change was like an interesting plot for an episode, and the fact that she was like mutating like every time she wasn't like, it's pretty funny. Wishbones, which is like an anthology episode where everyone is making these wishes like on a magic wish skull, and everything that they wish for like turns against them. For example,
it's like monkey paw still.
yeah, so for example, like Puddin makes a wish and ends up with a bunny rabbit who loves him with all of his heart, but pain is love, and so he is beating the shit out of him for like 3 minutes of like just him like
It's like this action sequence where it's just like it's like high octane, just like nonsense just going around.
yeah, and then there's a bunch of bits in that episode, but the other one I noted here was that the very first one, which is with Billy, is a Johnny Quest spoof where like Billy is Johnny and Irwin is Haji and like Harold is like Dr. Quest. It's pretty funny.
They had a lot of Hanna-Barbera like references in that, probably because that was the last Hanna-Barbera thing to get made over there.
Fucking Jake Steele, man.
Jake Steele, yeah. That was the episode with where they
unthaw caveman. It's just Fred Flintstone, except he's a raving crazy man.
He just says like yabba dabba do all the time.
Yeah,
but he's like a literal. He's not Fred Flintstone. He's a literal caveman being thought out in modern society. Has no idea what's going on or what anything is, so he just like loses his mind.
Yeah, because aside from that and the Johnny Quest spoof, I already mentioned Boo Boo and Yogi showing up in an earlier episode, but my other favorite Hanna-Barbera like cameo that happens in the episode is
Doesn't Huckleberry Hound get like ran over in one of the episodes?
That wasn't what I was going to bring up, but yeah, there's that. No, it's an episode. I think it's called like Billy and Mandy All Out Attack or something, where they go to Japan and it turns into like a big kaiju fight, but they bring up Grape Ape, and like his face like is in a volcano, and he rips his face out of the volcano. And he goes, "Grape Ape, it burns." Grape Ape. That's the other fucking thing I think about way more often than I should. Like
that one's a fun one. I like that one too.
Like the entire time I was watching Jellystone, whenever Grape Ape would pop up on screen, I was just thinking it burns. Grape Ape. Oh god. Zip Your Fly was another memorable episode to me because that's they have like a magic zipper that like unzips things and zips things back together like when it's applied to something. So that whole episode is Mandy's head on a fly's body and the fly's head on Mandy's body, and like just the shenanigans that ensue from that.
I remember that one too.
My Fair Mandy, which is the episode that you brought up earlier where Mandy's like in a beauty pageant and she has to smile by the end of it, and it fucking rips reality apart. And at the end of that episode, Billy, Mandy, and Grimm are like the Powerpuff Girls.
Yeah.
And as like a big Powerpuff Girls fan, that like was very like funny to me.
And we'll never talk about this again.
Yeah,
exactly. Another Mandy moment that's like sticking out to me is when she just straight up leaves the episode. That was a mascot.
I forget which episode that is.
Yeah, that's the mascot episode I just said.
Oh, the mascot episode, right? Yeah. So yeah, okay.
That was actually the first episode of Billy and Mandy I watched.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was like way back in what was it called? 2005, I think. That was like a night. I remember so clearly for some reason.
Yeah, because it didn't occur to me until now. But Richie, you're like a lot younger than me and JD, huh? How old are you?
I'm like 25 now.
Okay, so like a 5-year difference. That makes sense because I remember watching Billy and Mandy's like pilot on Big Pick. Like I remember.
Yeah.
Like, I can't remember if I voted for Billy and Mandy. If that was the same year that Kitty Bobo was up for consideration, I think I voted for Kitty Bobo.
I think a lot of people said they voted for Kitty Bobo.
But it didn't get picked up. One of the great tragedies of our time. But it turned out all right. Billy and Mandy's a great show. Let's see what else. Okay, yeah. I was about to say there's the episode with I was gonna bring up was the one with what's his name? Jake Steele.
Jake Steele.
Yeah, it's fucking Fred Flintstone. Fear and Loathing in Endsville is a great episode because that's the one where it's just Grimm and Dracula are stranded out in the desert. And it's like Dracula just fucking being a dick to Grimm the whole episode.
And somehow Grimm gets bitten by a snake.
And that's why he's got to have Dracula suck out the poison, but Dracula don't suck. He scrapes and licks.
Scrape and lick.
It still kind of baffles me how Grimm can still get poisoned even though he has no skin.
Yeah.
I never I understood this, like, this shouldn't be a thing, but a lot of this show shouldn't be, so I'll allow it.
It makes sense because nothing in the show makes sense.
Exactly.
The last episode that I want to bring up, because we already brought up a lot of the episodes before kind of talking about this, but it's an episode called The Greatest Love Story Ever Told, Ever. And the episode is Nurgle Jr. is going to prom with Mandy. And this episode is not on my list because of the episode. It's very specifically one moment. And it's when Nurgle is driving Nurgle Jr. and Mandy to prom. And he goes, "Hey, would you kids like to listen to some music?" And Nurgle Jr. is like, "Sure, Dad." And Nurgle's just, "Yeah, I bet you would." And they just sit there in silence.
Oh, so the Discord, I was laughing so hard.
I fucking love that moment. It is my favorite moment in the whole show.
That's a good moment.
Thing to do.
That's a good fucking moment.
It's so good. It's like akin to like, have you ever seen that that John Mulaney bit talking about how like your kids in the car like wanting to go to McDonald's and the fucking
go order black coffee and leave.
Yeah, like it's like almost on the same level. Like,
yeah,
it's so good. Yeah, no, fucking Billy Mandy's a great show. There's like, yeah, just even we only covered like a handful of moments here on the show, but I mean, you know, it's definitely like a quintessential Cartoon Network show for sure.
It is.
It's definitely one of their cornerstones.
Yeah, and I mean, I was just kind of surprised at how long it went on for because I totally like. I didn't realize it went on for like 6 seasons. Like, you know, it went on for as far as amount of episodes, it went on for longer than Dexter. Because I mean, we just covered that earlier in the year, and I watched through all that, and I was like, oh no, there's actually a considerable amount of more, considerably more episodes, or like when you factor in all the specials and movies and crossovers and stuff, like more content than that even. So
yeah, I mean, like Billy and Mandy was pretty much up there with like Ed and Eddie, and pretty much the most of the ones that were in that Invaded special, like those were like the mid 2000s to like 2010 staples before really Adventure Time and regular show took over.
Yeah, that's that's like what you watched when that's like what you watched back in the day when there was nothing else.
Yeah. But is there anything else we want to mention before we start wrapping up?
We never talked about the Martian episode. Not like the invaded one, like the Martian episode where Grimm moves to
to Mars.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the one with like the Mars Reaper, and like it turns out that he's like killed the rest of the intergalactic Reapers or something. I didn't have it on my list. I skipped over it, but no, that's another good one.
Yeah, there's like a few I'm starting to remember, like the Fleischer one too. I also really like.
The one, that's the one where Billy goes to learn how to juggle eggs, and like everything turns like a rubber hose.
I only remember it because of like the part with Grimm where he's just like doing the skeleton dance.
Yeah, no, that's a fun bit in that episode. Okay, no, JD, there is something I wanted to bring up. I totally forgot about it. I mentioned it earlier in the episode, but
sure.
I mentioned that I watched through this entire show on HBO Max.
Oh yeah.
So this is a very well documented thing on this show. A lot of cartoons on HBO Max, their episode orders fucked up. And Mandy's episode order in some of the seasons is fucked up. Especially like the first 2 seasons, they're completely all over the place. There's some season 1 episodes, there's in season 2 episodes in season 1. And honestly, for a show like this, it's not a huge deal. Except for certain characters do get introduced in an episode, so to see the episodes happen before that, or it could be dumb.
Right.
But that's not even the worst thing. So, the last season of Billy and Mandy was released in HD widescreen.
Okay.
There are only a few episodes on HBO Max that are in HD widescreen, and then the rest of them are cropped to 4:3. But the other thing, the one instance where this is like, oh my god, what the hell, is because Wrath of the Spider Queen is split up into 2 episodes on HBO Max. The first part of that episode's in HD widescreen, and the second half of that episode's in fucking 4:3 standard.
Oh Jesus! Come on.
Yeah, I have no idea what the fuck they're doing over there at HBO Max.
Well,
oh, right, no, and then the other thing too, the Christmas special and Big Boogie Adventure and Underfist, none of that's on HBO Max.
There's some episodes that just aren't on like a Max for some reason. I don't get it. I compared Max to like another site I was watching it on. And it was like there's just episodes that they just forgot to put in. I don't know if it's like intentional or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I have seen that with like a lot of the shows on there where for like specials and movies and stuff, they just don't have them for some reason. But I mean, and like I get that, so I get why Underfist wouldn't be on there and like Big Boogie Adventure wouldn't. But the Christmas episode is part of the regular show, and that's completely missing. That's the only main like show episode that's completely missing for some reason. I have no idea why, but yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on over there, man. But I hope they were able to fix like that's the problem with this show and like a lot of the other shows that I mentioned before.
I know the other notable one that was having this issue was OKKO. Was for the longest time, Ian was going on Twitter and basically saying like, here's the official order. HBO Max is not in order. Here's the order you should watch it in. And I think it just recently they fixed it. So yeah. I think it was because there was such an online campaign for them to like, hey, you guys fucked this order up. It's like detrimental to storytelling. You guys need to fix this. So, and I'm sure that like, I mean, obviously Billy and Mandy's out of order. There's stuff missing. KO was out of order. I'm sure there's a lot of shows like this that are out of order. And I just don't know if it's like who's uploading it, who's categorizing this. But yeah,
as far as being out of order, it just depends on the type of show. Like for Billy and Mandy, it's not that big a deal, except when it comes to certain jokes or whatever. But when you get to something like OKKO, where it's like, oh no, there is like actually an underlying through line plot that does happen. Maybe not in every single episode, but when that stuff happens out of order, then it gets confusing for like somebody that might be watching the show for the first time. But the thing that it just gets on my craw the most is the missing stuff, like missing like an entire episode that is within the show order. So like I said, I can understand Underfist or the movie not being on there, but like the Christmas episode not being on there doesn't make sense because they have the Halloween special. Like it's just weird. It's weirdly inconsistent.
This is how you get piracy.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I watched the rest of it somewhere else.
But yeah, hopefully this is issues that they can fix in the future, and hopefully it's just a thing that doesn't occur after that as well.
It's like the only way we can get like good rips of these like episodes, like movies, like specials.
Well, aside from like iTunes or Amazon or something, but it's like the amount of the amount they have to pay to like get like full seasons of shows and stuff on there is like outrageous. Which is not to say that shows aren't worth monetary value, but they have DVDs and shit too. So yeah. Anyway,
well,
the Big Boogie Adventure DVD worked on my PS3.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think that'll do it for this week on the Ink and Paint Club. Please let us know about your favorite Billy and Mandy memories in our comment sections on our various socials and the YouTube videos and all that good stuff. You know what to do.
Let us know how HBO Max ruined one of your favorite shows.
How is HBO Max currently pissing you off?
Yeah.
Tweet them directly. Even DM them at HBO Max. Tell them, give me these full episodes right now, or else I'm deactivating my subscription.
Like, I don't pay for it. Matt does.
I appreciate them being on the service at all, but it's like, come on, like
they're almost there.
You just look on Wikipedia for God's sake. Like everything's like in the right order there. Like
Exactly.
All right, guys. Thanks everyone for listening. Stay safe out there. We'll catch you next time.
Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find all the links to our social media pages in the episode description. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and join our Discord. You can listen to us wherever you get your podcasts. The Ink and Paint Club is happy to be part of the Geekly Grind Podcast Network. We'll see you next time.